So a big win for President Trump and his National Guard troops. Today, a federal appeals court ruled that he can keep control of the National Guard in Los Angeles because he likely acted within his authority when he called up the Marines and the National Guard against the wishes of California during the city's immigration protests. Governor Gavin Newsom vowing, though, to still press forward with California's challenge to what he calls President Trump's authoritarian use of U.S. military soldiers. All of this coming as the Los Angeles Dodgers say that they denied entry to dozens of federal agents near the stadium yesterday. Protesters met agents near the parking lot and say they are going to continue to protest throughout the city until the officers leave the area.
I took the opportunity to treat them the same way they treat us, to scare them and show them that we're not afraid. You know, we're going to stand up for our people, and we're here to support one another.
Joining me now are Melissa Dunn, who's there in L.A. She has been on the ground since the very beginning. So, Melissa, let's talk about how the court came to this decision to support Trump.
Yes, Kira. So first and foremost, the federal court, it is a 3-judge panel. They came to this decision saying that Trump likely did act within authority. And he did so. Why? Because he presented key evidence. So it was all about that evidence that they essentially decided that the Trump administration had the right to essentially grab control of the California National Guard and choose to deploy them. Now, there was so much back and forth here in California by Governor Newsom and the federal government that it finally ended up in this Ninth Circuit appeals court. But look, clearly, because of this evidence, that is why the federal court says that they were allowing now the California National Guard to stay deployed here. So they cited essentially specific acts by protesters, including that first weekend of protests that we had here in Los Angeles County. That weekend, that was protests that broke out in the city of Compton and the city of Paramount. This is where local law enforcement and federal officials say protesters threw concrete chunks, bottles of liquid, and other objects at officers. They also damaged some vans, federal buildings. So that evidence, essentially, Kira, is what backed up the federal court's decision.
Well, ICE is now denying that agents were ever at Dodger Stadium. So do we actually know what really went down yesterday and why all the protesters remain there?
Yes, Kira. So let me give you a play-by-play of what happened here. It was a lot of back and forth between the federal government pointing fingers to local officials and to people on the ground. Simply put, by yesterday morning to the afternoon, we started to see videos online on social media of federal agents near the parking lot area and the gates of Dodger Stadium. Look, they had a game last night, so attention was already on them. That video started circulating, so protesters decided to show up. The protesters get there and they're saying, we see ICE agents, we see federal guys, we see people with masks on. What is going on? Well, essentially, when, all the news crews reached out, we reached out for a request, we reached out to the Dodgers. The Dodgers came out saying that they had denied ICE agents access. But essentially, what the Department of Homeland Security then said was that, look, it was actually CBP agents. It was Custom Borders Patrol agents that were simply parked nearby and were not involved in any immigration enforcement raids. They were just going and setting up outside. But that caused a lot of panic because, of course, Kira, you have to keep in mind that we have been seeing all of these immigration raids ongoing really within the last several weeks here in Los Angeles at everyday places.
Our Melissa Dunn in L.A. for us. Thanks, Melissa.